without further ado, we're getting to Sheriff David Clarke. He is America's Sheriff. You can go to americasheriff.com. He's also on the board of directors at the Crime Research Center, and he is joining us now. Sheriff Clarke, great to have you with us.
Thanks, John. Good to be with you.
Well, we got a lot to talk about today, but let's start with this wall thing going on with Steve Bannon. Got obviously arrested the other day. He's got charges pending. You were part of that board of directors, I believe, when it started. What is going on with this?
I don't know anything more than what's in the news reports or the indictment. I read the indictment. 4 individuals were named. I want to remind people that indictments are allegations. These are accusations that have not been proven in a court of law, and the 4 people named are still entitled to the presumption of innocence. Other than that, they'll get their day in court. If these allegations are proven to be true, they will have to answer for it.
Right. Well, that's you have to go through the due. There's due process in the United States, and so we'll see what happens with that. But it's just unfortunate because I think it was a good idea from the beginning. How it ended up, I don't really know, but we'll see how it plays out, Sheriff. Sheriff, I want to get to Kenosha. I'm going to play one cut for you here that I want to get you to comment on, and we're going to go from there. Here's a Wisconsin business owner that her business has been burned down and destroyed. There were pictures last night of people looting. There was one video I saw on one of the news channels, I think Fox News, of rioters and looters smashing windows in a mattress store. This is an independent mattress store, not like the big ones, not the big chains. It's an independent store guy, supporting his family by selling bedding, smashed the window, and they were carrying out mattresses and box springs, just carrying them out. I mean, and no police, nothing. I was just stunned watching this. Kira, let's get to cut 10, Wisconsin business owner.
This morning, get up, come down here, and what I see, I was not prepared for. I knew it was going to be a disaster, but I didn't know what a disaster looked like till I saw it.
And you, I can hear the emotion in what you're saying. I mean, what is the family feeling right now?
It's tough. This is a business that my parents started 40 years ago, small, out of their garage. It was a small business. Did it just to make a few extra dollars, and eventually it grew. 31 years ago, they bought this building, and so we've been here ever since. They're very upset about it. It's emotionally hurtful. We didn't do anything to anybody. Why did we deserve it?
Yeah, Sheriff. I mean, this is one after the other. These store owners, businesses destroyed, lives up in flames, and they did nothing. What is your reaction to this, sir?
I don't even know where to start. To hear the resignation and shock in his voice just rips my heart out, and it makes me sick. Total collapse of government down in Kenosha. That includes the police. There is no law and order in Kenosha right now. It's complete chaos. The social order has collapsed, and government is not responding. They're not responding effectively. When people have their businesses, when people have their property destroyed, when government property is being destroyed, and the police just stand there and watch, it's really disheartening. It really is. And when that happens, people are going to take the law, their self-defense, their defense of their property, they're going to take it into their own hands. And when they take it into their own hands, it's not going to be pretty. But, government has to be held accountable when these things happen. I'm not going to stand back here. I've never done that and told people that I never tell people they don't have the right to defend themselves and their property. It has to be reasonable under the circumstances. That is a riot situation right now, total chaos. And under those circumstances, maybe some sort of force, will and should be used by citizens. You heard that guy, a business for 40 years, started by his parents, gone forever. What's he supposed to do? Look at government, who he pays taxes to in support of police protection, and he gets zero. What are people supposed to do, John?
I don't know. I mean, you have a business, you're in a city, you had nothing to do with any of this. It gets burned down, it gets looted, all the stuff is taken out, then they trash it, then they destroy it, and the response of some of the organizers are, well, you have insurance. Well, insurance is meant for a disaster like a hurricane or a tornado. It's not meant as part of your business plan. I mean, so, and it was almost like, well, you have insurance, and it was the one organizer in Chicago who said, well, looting is justified. It's like reparations. We're just taking stuff from white people. Of course, you don't have any idea who's owning the stores that you're breaking into. I mean, this is complete chaos. And let me ask you something, Sheriff. When you look at these videos in Kenosha, where were the police?
Yeah, they were overwhelmed. The resources are overwhelmed. I get that. But at the same time, when I say government, it's a total failure by government here. The governor of Wisconsin sends in the National Guard, right? And upon request, he sends them 125 National Guard troops. 125. I said yesterday, I've been interviewed about this over the last couple of days, obviously. I said that was a joke. You need to send a signal. I said it should have been at least 1,000, minimum 1,000 National Guard troops should have been sent to Kenosha. You have to totally occupy that downtown area. You have to set up a perimeter. Nobody in, nobody out of those retail areas and some of those public buildings. I've been to that square down there. As a matter of fact, they had a police rally down there a couple of months ago that I spoke with, so I know the area. You cordon the thing off about let's say just 3-block area, 3 blocks out from the center. Nobody in, nobody out. They're allowing these goons to stage in this park that's right across from the courthouse, and then that's where the rioting starts, and then they move out from there. Similar thing happened in Milwaukee in 2016 when I had to handle a riot. The first thing I did was we took the park away. We set up a perimeter of about 2 blocks and said nobody in, nobody out, and the riot was over after one night because we didn't allow them to stage, John. I called in the National Guard. I called the governor, actually. By law, the sheriff is the only person that can call for the National Guard. I called the governor. The governor sent, it was about 500 or so guardsmen, which was enough at that time, and he would have sent more if I needed it. But 125 is a joke. Now I hear he doubled it to, he's sent another 125. There's 250. That's not enough resources to protect life and property. So when you have that situation, it's futile for the people that live there, the business owners. They can't get to their businesses. They can't protect themselves. Some of this stuff spills into the neighborhoods, but in the neighborhoods, it's a little more controllable than it is in these retail areas, in these downtown areas. At least you can't loot in a neighborhood. So it's just a complete disaster down there, but I'm holding the government of Kenosha, I'm holding the state of Wisconsin responsible for not being able to suppress this thing quickly. The longer it goes on, the bigger chance you're going to have that this is going to turn into Portland. We'll be sitting here 20 days from now talking about day 20 in the Kenosha riots. It's not being handled properly, and I'm getting sick of it, John.
Sheriff David
Not
Clarke
enough
with
force
us.
is being applied. They need to bring maximum force, all of the resources, maximum force to suppress this thing, and they refuse to do it.
Sheriff, define maximum. Like they just called in, what you said, 250 guardsmen. If you were sheriff or if you were being consulted on this, how many do they need and how do you stop it? Be specific.
I said 1,000 minimum, because what you want to do is you want to occupy. You want these guardsmen in the streets occupying this perimetered area. It has to be cordoned off. If you don't cordon it off, you don't have control of it. Okay, so 1,000 minimum, and if you need more, you ask for more. But I'd start with 1,000, and I bring that number up because I know the area. I've been down there, and I think that would be enough to at least get started. If you don't put a perimeter around, nobody in, nobody out, this thing will go on in perpetuity. So when you say, what's maximum force? Well, they're using the tear gas. That's good. All right. But if they don't cordon that area off, the tear gas is just going to temporarily interrupt some groups. Then they disperse and they go gather somewhere else. They'll loot another area downtown. That's why I said they got to cordon the whole thing off. Maximum force, arrests made, force used to get those people out of there. Force used to protect officers. Force used, a firebombing could end up, some people are camping out overnight in their businesses. You torch that thing, you're going to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. All right? So that to me, if you see somebody shooting a Molotov cocktail into a building, I think deadly force should be used to stop that individual. You can articulate that. That's a very dangerous situation, but they're walking around on eggshells down there, John, and that's the problem.
What about the last night there were people shot there? What about that? How do you stop there? I mean, they're coming with guns, and now you got rioters shooting rioters or something. What is going on?
Yeah, I don't know all the facts there. I read the news stories early this morning about that. Not a lot known, and that's another thing is law enforcement is not saying a whole lot. They're talking to the sheriff down there, Sheriff Beth, who I know, and he's not saying a lot. He just says 3 people were shot, 2 fatally. We're looking for somebody with a long gun, and then there's other reports that said it was done by somebody in a car. Who knows? We just don't know the facts right now, but it is bedlam down there, John, and it's not going to stop. People are tired of it. I've heard a lot of people who've been interviewed as to what's going on down there. Citizens, they're tired of it. There was an apartment building set on fire with people inside last night, or night before. The fire department responded, and Black Lives Matter blocked the fire department from getting to the building. See, this is what I mean. You have to start using force, real force, not just tear gas, not just telling them leave the area, disperse. Real force, move those people out of there. Arrest the ones you can, the ones that want to fight. Use any force that you have to. Reasonable. I said reasonable, but still, the law allows, John, the Supreme Court of the United States has opined on this, on what type of force a law enforcement officer can use, and they've made it clear. They said they can use any amount of force reasonably that can overcome the resistance. You don't just meet the resistance. You're allowed to use force to overcome the resistance. And they're not doing it because they're afraid right now. I understand why they're afraid, but then they've abandoned their responsibility, and what we then have is every man for himself down there. I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with every man for himself, but this isn't going to be pretty.
Well, your friend that you mentioned, Sheriff David Beth of Kenosha, said that he's got 250 law enforcement officers and 250 National Guard members that were on hand last night. But obviously that was 500. Obviously that was not sufficient because we had 2 shootings and 1 person injured. Somebody with a rifle shot somebody in the head. They don't know who had the long gun. But this is the kind of stuff that happens. Now, they say in the news reports that the gunman was seen heading away out of town towards several police tactical vehicles, his arms raised in the footage they had. And so somehow he was able to get away. Beth said that they're trying to find him, and he didn't know if this was a vigilante group. I mean, nobody knows anything, but they've got a powder keg in there, right? I mean, you got to stop it.
Yeah, but here's the thing, John. When Beth makes these statements, and yes, I'm being critical, because all hell broke loose down there. But when he makes these statements, we're looking. He doesn't have time right now to investigate this. He just isn't. They don't have their arms around this thing. It's all everybody on board right now, and what they have to do is try to restore calm, try to restore law and order. So then you have these other things going on, like the shooting. Well, then you have to take people away from their primary responsibility of restoring law and order to investigate this sort of thing. That's why I said after night one you give them. Night one, all hell breaks loose in a riot. You're not prepared for it. I get that. Night 2, you got to have your ducks in order. And like I said, I lived one of these, so I know what I'm talking about. In night 2, I stood up on the TV before a news conference. It was carried on national news. And I said, what you saw in Milwaukee last night, and that was the first night of the riot, I said, you will not see a repeat of that again. And we didn't, because I had enough people. If you don't have enough bodies, enough human resources, meaning cops, to secure the area, so he should have known. If he's got a 125-man department, and he asked, or all Evers would send him, Governor Evers, is 125 guardsmen. Beth has to say that's not enough, and he has to demand, and you want more resources than you need. So if all Evers sent him was another 125, and then another 125 last, no. If he would have started with 1,000, like I said, 1,000 minimum, and if you need more, you got it. But then you probably have more than you need to at least secure a perimeter. You have to have a perimeter, nobody in, nobody out, around that courthouse, the police stations nearby, their downtown areas right there. So however far that stretches, and a perimeter. No cars in, no people in after a certain time at night, because there's a curfew in effect at 8, but maybe you close it off at 6. And nobody in, nobody out. They got to stage somewhere else. They'll have to find a neighborhood to stage in. And what I also did was we created, part of our plan was we created strike forces of about 15 officers that we could quickly dispatch if they started to marshal somewhere else. So if we got a call, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street, they're starting to gather over here. There's about 30 of them. You send a couple of those strike force teams of 30 people, of cops over there to secure that area and to move them out of there. That's a plan, John. I don't see it or hear any of this going on in Kenosha. It's not going on in Portland. It wasn't going on in Seattle. It wasn't going on in Chicago. It wasn't going on in Minneapolis. These people don't know what they're doing.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And what Sheriff Beth did, I mean, there was one report last evening that there was a family with guns protecting their dry cleaning business with one of them on the roof. I don't know what you expect these people to do. I mean, so you own a dry cleaning business. I mean, what do you expect them to do? I mean, if they can't defend themselves, the cops can't defend them. They don't have enough people. They don't want to see their business burned down to the ground. So they protect themselves. I mean, what do you and then but Sheriff Beth was saying, no, you can't be there with a gun. You have to get off the roof, etc.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
So they were saying, well, it's my business. Never. What the hell am I going to do? So they don't do anything with the rioters and the looters, but they're going after the people that are trying to protect their property. I mean, is that not upside down?
Well, yeah, and I'm tired of listening to these people, these imbeciles, with this subhuman behavior down there. I'm tired of listening to them making statements like, well, you got insurance, that's what insurance is. No, it's not your property. It's not for you, this idiot from Black Lives Matter, to tell a property owner what he can and can't do with his building, what he should or shouldn't do with his building. It's the property owner. And we as citizens need to start backing the property owners, backing the citizens, because the government's failing them. I'm tired of that crap. Like you said, John, it's not what insurance is for. If you don't have a rider for that sort of thing, it doesn't matter. Okay? So these people are totally out, and we look and we just, yeah, that's real sad. And it's really sad. I'm tired of that. I'm angry. And I know the people of Kenosha are angry. I'm connected emotionally with them right now from 40 miles away, because I've watched this stuff. I've watched what's going on in Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, Chicago, and it makes me sick. And somebody has to do something. If government's going to stand flat-footed and not do anything, then I encourage citizens to get involved, protect yourself, protect your properties.
Well, I mean, I don't know what other choice you have. I mean, you have to be able to protect yourself and protect your belongings, protect your business, and obviously there's not enough resources for law enforcement to do that. So this is really a powder keg, but I think you nailed it. Just cordon the thing off, get the troops there, and stop this. One thing you said to me makes sense just as a layman, and that's what I am, layman, for what you're doing. You're the professional, but you said just cordon off the staging area so they can't stage it. And then if you can't stage it, it becomes more difficult to mobilize. That makes a lot of sense to me. Certainly that's not being done. But I think you're right. Like, okay, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, like you're saying, it really should have ended after the first day if it was handled correctly. Sheriff, I'm out of time. I want to thank you for your today. Hopefully this video that we put up on YouTube will be viewed by law enforcement in Wisconsin and Kenosha, and hopefully, sir, they'll take your advice, and maybe you should pick up the phone and call your colleague there, your former colleague, David Beth, and tell him what to do, because you certainly made a lot of sense. I mean, what happened last night just can't continue to happen. And it's just a horrible situation for everybody involved. And look, even for the people that are out there that want to protest, it's not safe for them either when you've got looters and guns and people getting shot. Right?
They shouldn't be there.
No, they shouldn't be there.
And they're not helping either.
Right.
They're not helping the police. They're not identifying anybody.
Yeah, it's horrible. All right, Sheriff, we're out of time.